So you're probably wondering, Val, what kind of books are you using for your research? Well, for starters, I fell in love with research through Thomas Bulfinch's collection of mythology, and that covers your Greek, your Nordic, Legends of Arthur, and Legends of Charlemagne. It's public domain. It's been around since the 1800s. If you look at Thomas Bulfinch's mythology, you should be able to find it anywhere. I do a very pretty, go to willisauthor.com, and I do like a pretty remake, coffee table worthy remake of it with all 4 volumes together. But other content that I use, or other books, so to speak, depends. Rebirth and the Tattooed Angels trilogy, I started writing in high school, and I found this book for sale at a Borders, and it was Angels A to Z. This book had content I had never seen about angel folklore, mythology, and some interesting things that I hadn't realized. And it was through this that I realized a lot of misconceptions I had about angels, which was sort of taught through grandma kind of scenario, is that they're neither malicious or benevolent. So this kind of gave me some ideas on how I wanted to work the magic system and the entities in the Tattooed Angels trilogy. When I first wanted to do a graphic novel for Cedric, and then later decided to write it, I decided I wanted to do a lot of extensive research, but I wanted my monsters to be inspired by medieval beastwaries. And it was very hard for me in the beginning to really find something that had a large portion of those weird nuances and one-offs. But I found it in Kara Rose's Giants, Monsters, and Dragons. This is a wonderful piece. It doesn't just cover medieval beastwaries. This has a lot of South American and other cultures involved. And she kind of gives you their resources and locations, and a great index in this if you're trying to find monsters specifically from a certain region or tied to certain elements. Another go-to book for a lot of my mythology. I do research online, and I dive into forums and I ask questions. I even email professors and things like that, to ask them questions. I even speculate stuff like, hey, is it probable, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, I never thought of it that way. And it's so funny because it seems like I'm influencing a lot of recent research papers on legacy pieces and family namesake associated with mythology names. But this book had a lot of the creatures that I was able to find through outside sources and reaching out directly with professors listed in it. And it is the Dictionary of Mythology by J.A. Coleman. Printed by Capella, if I believe. Yes. As you can see, I'm going to have to figure out a way of rebinding this book because it is heavily loved and used. I know a lot of people find the abridged version, which is like teeny tiny, but man, what would I give for someone to rebind this? But it had a lot of the creatures and mythologies that I have a harder time finding in other sources, like Lamashtu, which is a creature that pops up in Cedric, the first book. You will discover that Lamashtu is the demigoddess, Mesopotamian kind of goddess, that has a very interesting tie-in with Dark Ages because she shows up again. Babylonian times, Mesopotamian, you see her a lot. She is associated with bad omens for childbirth, stealing babies. She's got a very weird and Egyptian style description with feet of a bird and ears like a donkey and a doggish face to her. But she steals children and rides on the back of a pig. So this is very folklorish, kind of Celtic and Britannic kind of vibe to her too. But during the Dark Ages, she reappeared in some drawings and was associated with pestilence and even pollution and things like that. Because there was an article about this new manuscript back when I was writing this book. And again, I reached out to the professor. I'm like, is it possible this is Lamash too? And they're like, why would a Babylonian Mesopotamian demigoddess be? You know, so it's a lot of fun. So writers, don't be afraid to reach out, because we kind of inspire each other a lot, you know. But those are books that I use for researching a lot of what I write.